The stars had never looked so beautiful to Maria Santos as they did through the viewport of the Determination. She had been exploring space for 15 years, visiting worlds that humanity had claimed across 47 star systems. Today felt different, though. The deep space sensors were picking up something massive approaching from the galactic core. "Captain, we have multiple contacts dropping out of faster-than-light travel," reported Lieutenant Barnes from his station. "I count at least 200 vessels, all of them bigger than anything in our fleet." Maria watched as the alien ships materialized in perfect formation. Each vessel was at least 5 kilometers long, their hulls gleaming with metal that seemed to shift colors in the starlight. They moved with precision that spoke of centuries of military discipline. "Are they responding to our communications?" Maria asked. "Yes, Captain. They're requesting immediate surrender and compliance with what they call Dominion Protocol 7. Maria had never heard of any Dominion. Humanity had been alone among the stars for 300 years since developing their jump drive technology. They had built colonies, established trade routes, and created a network of worlds that stretched across this arm of the galaxy. No one had ever told them they needed permission. The largest alien ship moved forward, dwarfing the Determination like a whale next to a minnow. A communication channel opened, and the holographic image of a tall, blue-skinned creature appeared. On the bridge, its eyes were large and silver, and it wore robes that seemed to flow like liquid metal. "I am Admiral Fane of the Dominion Alliance," the being said. Its voice was deep and carried an authority that suggested it was used to being. "Obeyed, you will identify yourself and explain how your species achieved interstellar travel without our guidance?" Maria stepped forward, keeping her voice steady. "I am Captain Maria Santos of the Human Colonial Fleet. This is our exploration vessel Determination. We developed our own technology and have been exploring space for 3 centuries. "Admiral." Thane's expression changed, showing what might have been surprise on its alien features. "Impossible. No species develops faster than light travel independently. All civilizations require proper guidance and control to prevent dangerous technological advancement." "Well, we did," Maria replied. "We built our jump drives, established our colonies, and created our own path among the stars. We didn't know we needed anyone's permission." The Admiral's image flickered as if it was conferring with others. When it returned, its tone had become harder. "The Dominion Alliance has maintained galactic peace for over 2,000 years. We have guided 17 species to proper technological development. You will submit to our authority immediately." Maria felt her crew tense around her. They had families on the human colonies, children who had been born under alien suns, and communities that had grown from nothing into thriving worlds. The idea of surrendering all of that to creatures they had never met was unthinkable. "What exactly are you demanding?" she asked. "You will abandon all colonies beyond your home system. You will surrender your faster-than-light technology for proper regulation. You will accept Dominion oversight of all future technological development. You will limit your population growth according to our guidelines." The bridge fell silent. Maria could feel the weight of the moment. This was first contact with alien intelligence, something humanity had dreamed about for centuries. But instead of wonder and exchange, they were being presented with ultimatums and demands for surrender. "Admiral Thane," Maria said carefully, "humanity has built something beautiful out here. We have worlds where children play under foreign suns, where artists create works inspired by alien landscapes, where scientists unlock the secrets of the universe. We have done this without harming anyone or threatening anyone. Why should we give it up?" "Because you do not understand the dangers," Thane replied. "Uncontrolled technological advancement leads to chaos. Unguided expansion creates conflict. The Dominion exists to prevent these catastrophes." Maria looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. These were people who had chosen to explore the unknown, who had left Earth to build something new among the stars. They were engineers who had solved problems no textbook had ever covered, scientists who had discovered things no human had ever imagined, and explorers who had mapped routes through space that led to wonders beyond description. We appreciate your concern, Maria said, but we didn't ask for your permission to reach for the stars. Admiral Fane's image seemed to grow larger, more imposing. You will comply with Dominion authority. This is not a request. And if we refuse? Then you will be forced to comply. The Dominion Alliance commands the combined military might of 12 advanced species. Your primitive vessels cannot stand against our fleet. Maria felt something stir inside her, something that had driven humanity from caves to cities to space. Stations orbiting distant suns. It was the same stubborn refusal to accept limits that had led her ancestors to cross oceans and climb mountains and eventually reach for the stars themselves. Admiral, I'm going to send a message to every human colony in our network. I'm going to tell them that we've made first contact with alien intelligence. I'm going to tell them that these aliens want us to abandon our homes, surrender our technology, and accept their control over our future. She paused, letting her words sink in. And then I'm going to tell them that humanity's answer is the same as it's always been when someone tries to chain us down. We politely decline. The communication channel closed with a sharp crack. The alien fleet began to move, their ships spreading out in what was clearly a threatening formation. Maria turned to her crew. Signal the fleet. Tell them we're coming home, and send a priority message to Colonial Command. Let them know we're about to find out what humanity can do when the galaxy tries to push us back. The determination turned toward human space, carrying news that would change everything. Behind them, the Dominion fleet followed, confident in their superiority. They had no idea that humanity had already risen far beyond what they could imagine. The Dominion Council chamber had not seen such heated debate in 5 centuries. Representatives from 12 species sat around a massive circular table that floated in the center of a crystalline dome. Each delegate's translation device crackled, with tension as they argued about the human problem. Counselor Raven of the hegemony species slammed her 4-fingered hand on the table. Her pale skin flushed purple with anger. These humans are nothing more than primitives with stolen technology. They cannot possibly have developed interstellar travel on their own. The evidence suggests otherwise, replied Counselor Dornov. The collective, his insectoid features clicked as he spoke. Their ships use principles we have never encountered. Their technology appears to be genuinely original. Impossible, Raven insisted. In 2,000 years we have never discovered a species capable of independent technological advancement. They must have found abandoned technology from a previous civilization. High Counselor Vex, eldest of the Dominion founders, raised his hand for silence. His ancient voice carried the weight of authority. Regardless of how they obtained their technology, they have refused to submit to proper guidance. This cannot be allowed to continue. The debate continued for hours. Some counselors argued for immediate military action, others for diplomatic solutions, and a few suggested ignoring the humans entirely. But all agreed on one fundamental point: uncontrolled technological development was dangerous to galactic stability. What do we know about their military capabilities? Asked Counselor Nash of the Synthesis. Very little, admitted Admiral Fane, who had been called to provide intelligence. They have approximately 300 vessels scattered across their 47 colonies. Their ships are smaller than ours but appear to be faster. They use unconventional energy signatures that suggest unique propulsion and weapon systems. 300 ships against our 10,000, Raven said dismissively. This is not a military threat, it is a minor police action. Meanwhile, on the human colony world of New Geneva, Admiral Tom Bradley was having his own heated discussions. The emergency session of the Colonial Defense Council had been going for 18 hours straight. Representatives from every human world were participating via quantum communication link. The Dominion has given us 1 standard week to comply with their demands, Bradley reported. After that, they will begin what they call enforcement actions against our outer colonies. What are our options? Asked Governor Liu from the Kepler system. We can surrender and watch everything we've built over 3 centuries disappear. Or we can fight and probably die doing it. The silence stretched across light years of space. Finally, Dr. Ann Weber from the research station at Alpha Centauri spoke up. Tom, I've been analyzing the sensor data from the determination. Their technology is advanced, but it's also old. Very old. I think they've been using the same basic designs for centuries. What does that mean for us? Bradley asked. It means they've stopped innovating. They have better materials and more power, but they think in patterns we can predict. Our technology is cruder, but it's also newer. We're still learning, still adapting. Bradley felt a spark of hope. What do you need to give us an edge? Time. And data. If we can get detailed scans of their ships, we might be able to find weaknesses. I can give you the data, said Captain Maria Santos, her voice crackling through the communication link from the determination. But time is something we don't have much of. The decision was made quickly. Humanity would not surrender. They would fight, using every advantage they could find. The outer colonies would be evacuated, but the defense fleet would make the Dominion. Pay for every world they claimed. 3 days later, the first test came at the Proxima system. A Dominion task force of 50 ships arrived to find the human colony apparently defenseless. The colonists had been evacuated, leaving behind empty cities and abandoned infrastructure. This is Commander Troy of the Dominion Enforcement Fleet, the alien commander announced. We are claiming this system under Dominion authority. Any remaining human presence will be removed. The response came from Captain Rivera of the human destroyer Defiance. This is human space. You are not welcome here. You have 1 vessel against 50, Commander Troy replied. Surrender now, and you will be treated according to Dominion law. We'll pass on that offer. The battle that followed lasted only 20 minutes, but it changed everything. The Defiance didn't fight like a traditional warship. Instead of engaging the Dominion fleet directly, it used hit-and-run tactics, striking from multiple directions and disappearing before the enemy could respond. The human ships seemed to dance around the larger alien vessels, using the systems. Asteroid field as cover. It fired weapons that behaved unlike anything in Dominion databases, creating gravitational distortions that pulled enemy ships off course and energy bursts that bypassed CONVNTIO and AL shielding. When 3 more human ships appeared and began coordinating their attacks, the Dominion formation fell apart. The aliens were used to fighting opponents who followed predictable patterns, who engaged in formal battles with clearly defined rules. The humans fought like chaos itself, turning the battle into a wild dance of destruction. Commander Troy's flagship was damaged, 2 of his escort vessels were destroyed, and the rest of his fleet was scattered. He ordered a retreat, unable to understand how such a small force had defeated his superior numbers. Report to Dominion Command, he transmitted as his ships fled. The humans do not fight according to any known tactical doctrine. They are unpredictable and dangerous. We need a larger force. Back in the Dominion Council chamber, the news of the defeat sent shockwaves through the assembled delegates. Councillor Raven's face had turned deep purple with rage. Impossible, she shouted. 50 ships should have been more than enough to deal with a few primitive vessels. The report suggests the humans are using some form of advanced tactical coordination, Admiral Thane said carefully. Their ships moved as if they were controlled by a single intelligence, but our scans showed no centralized command structure. Then how did they coordinate so effectively? We don't know. Their technology appears to allow individual ship commanders to make independent decisions while maintaining perfect coordination with their allies. We have never encountered such a system. High Counselor Vex stood slowly, his ancient frame trembling with either age or anger. Assemble the Grand Fleet. Every available vessel from all 12 species. We will crush this human resistance before it can spread. Sir, Admiral Thane said hesitantly, perhaps we should study their tactics first. Understand how they achieved this victory. No, Vex replied firmly. Understanding leads to adaptation. Adaptation leads to change. Change leads to chaos. We will overwhelm them with superior force as we have always done. The order went out across Dominion space. The largest military force in galactic history began to assemble. Its destination, the human home system of Sol, The Dominion leaders were confident that sheer numbers would solve their human problem. They had no idea that humanity was just getting started. The asteroid belt around Earth's sun had been transformed into something no human had ever imagined. Engineer Sophie Walsh floated in her maintenance pod, watching as automated systems carved massive chambers inside space rocks that had drifted silently for billions of years. Each asteroid was becoming a weapon, its interior filled with railguns, missile batteries, and power cores that could turn solid rock into kinetic projectiles. "How many more do we need?" asked her assistant, Marcus Vale, his voice crackling. "Through the communication link." "All of them," Sophie replied, watching another asteroid begin its transformation. "The Dominion is bringing everything they have. We need to make sure they regret it." The approaching alien fleet was massive beyond anything humanity had faced. 3,000 ships from 12 different species, commanded by the best military minds the Dominion could assemble. Intelligence reports suggested they would arrive in Sol System within days, expecting to find a primitive homeworld defended by a handful of outdated vessels. Instead, they would find something that had never existed before in galactic history. An entire star system turned into a fortress. Dr. Ray Kim studied the latest intelligence reports in his laboratory on Luna, the captured Dominion. Technology told a story that both fascinated and horrified him. The aliens had incredible manufacturing capabilities, energy sources that could power entire worlds, and materials that seemed almost impossible to create, but they had built all of it using designs that were centuries old. Their ships were larger, versions of ships their ancestors had flown. Their weapons were refined versions of ancient technology, and their tactics had not changed in over 1,000 years. "They're not innovating," he told Admiral Bradley during their daily briefing. "They're just building bigger versions of the same things they've always built. It's like they've forgotten how to invent new solutions." "How is that possible?" Bradley asked. "Any species that reaches the stars must have incredible scientific capabilities." "They do, but they've channeled all of that capability into perfecting existing technology rather than creating new technology. They've chosen stability over innovation." Bradley studied the tactical displays showing the approaching Dominion fleet. "What advantage does that give us? They expect us to fight like they fight. They've planned for enemies who will meet them in open battle with ships designed according to their understanding of space combat. They have no idea how to handle opponents who refuse to follow their rules." The Sol System's defenses were unlike anything that had ever been built. The asteroid belt had become a maze of hidden weapons platforms, each one capable of independent action but coordinated through quantum communication networks. The outer planets carried defensive stations that could move under their own power, turning gas giants into mobile fortresses. Earth itself was protected by a shield of orbital platforms that could generate energy barriers, launch swarms of fighter drones, and coordinate defensive fire from across the solar system. It was not a single fortress, but a living organism of interconnected defenses that could adapt to any threat. Captain Lucy Rivera commanded the destroyer Relentless, one of 50 human vessels that would serve as mobile defense units. Her ship was different from the traditional destroyers in the Earth fleet. It was smaller, faster, and carried experimental weapons that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. "The Dominion fleet is dropping out of faster-than-light travel," reported her sensor operator. "They're forming up just outside the heliopause." Lucy watched as the alien ships materialized in perfect formation. Their vessels were beautiful in their own way, sleek and powerful, arranged in geometric patterns that spoke of mathematical precision. They moved with the confidence of a force that had never known defeat. "Signal from the flagship," her communications officer announced. "They're demanding our immediate surrender." "Open a channel," Lucy ordered. High Admiral Crom of the Dominion. Grand Fleet appeared on the main screen. His species was tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to shimmer like metal and eyes that glowed with internal light. He wore ceremonial armor that marked him as one of the most decorated military leaders in galactic history. "I am High Admiral Crom," he announced. You will surrender immediately or face the consequences of defying Dominion authority. This is your final warning. This is Captain Lucy Rivera of the Earth Defense Fleet, she replied. You are not welcome in our system. Turn around and leave, or we will be forced to defend our home. Crum's expression showed what might have been amusement. Captain, I command 3,000 vessels crewed by the finest warriors in the galaxy. You have perhaps 100 small ships defending a single star system. This is not a battle, it is an execution. Then come and execute us, Lucy said simply, and closed the channel. The Dominion fleet began to move forward, maintaining their perfect formation. They had studied human tactics from the Proxima battle and believed they understood how to counter them. They would use overwhelming force to prevent hit-and-run attacks, concentrating their firepower to destroy the human fleet quickly. They had no idea that the human fleet was not their primary opponent. The first indication that something was wrong came when the asteroid belt began to move. Rocks that had been drifting in predictable orbits for millions of years suddenly changed course, accelerating toward the alien fleet with impossible precision, evasive maneuvers. Crom commanded, but his ships were too close together, too dependent on maintaining formation. The asteroids struck like massive bullets, their rock surfaces hiding armor and weapons that turned them into kinetic projectiles. The Dominion fleet scattered, their perfect formation breaking apart as they tried to avoid the unexpected attack. But the asteroids were only the beginning. The outer planets began to move, their defensive stations revealing themselves as Jupiter's moons became mobile weapons platforms. Saturn's rings erupted with concealed missile batteries, and the gas giants themselves became shields that blocked sensors and communications. The human fleet attacked from everywhere at once. Ships appeared from behind planetary bodies, emerged from hiding places in the asteroid belt, and materialized from stealth systems that made them invisible to Dominion sensors. They fought like a swarm of insects, each ship independent but coordinated with all the others. High Admiral Crom watched in horror as his grand fleet was torn apart by defenders who refused to fight according to any known tactical doctrine. His ships were designed to fight other ships, not entire star systems that had been turned into weapons. How is this possible? He demanded of his tactical officer. How can a primitive species coordinate such complex defenses? Sir, they appear to be using some form of distributed command system. Each defensive unit is making independent decisions while maintaining perfect coordination with all others. It's like fighting a single organism with thousands of separate parts. The battle raged for hours. The Dominion fleet had superior individual ships, but they were fighting an enemy that existed everywhere at once. Every asteroid was a potential weapon, every planet was a fortress, and every human ship was part of a network that could adapt to any threat. When the retreat finally came, it was not an organized withdrawal, but a desperate flight. The Dominion fleet fled toward the edge of the system, leaving behind nearly 1,000 destroyed vessels and the shattered remains of their perfect formation. High Admiral Crom sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical displays that showed the magnitude of his defeat. In a single battle, a force that had never known defeat had been humbled by opponents they had dismissed as primitives. Send a message to the Dominion Council, he ordered. Tell them that we have encountered something unprecedented. The humans do not fight like any known species. They have turned their entire star system into a weapon, and they coordinate it with a precision that should be impossible. He paused, struggling to find words for what he had witnessed. Tell them that we are not fighting a species that has stolen technology. We are fighting a species that has evolved beyond our understanding. And if we do not find a way to stop them, they will change everything. The message was transmitted across the galaxy, carrying news that would shake the foundations of Dominion power. For the first time in 2,000 years, their military had been defeated by an opponent they had underestimated. But the defeat at Sol was only the beginning. The war was about to become something far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The deep space reconnaissance vessel, Shadow, drifted silently through the void between stars, its hull darker than the space around it. Captain Lucy Rivera had volunteered for this mission knowing she might never return. The objective was simple: penetrate deep into Dominion space and discover the truth about their enemy. "We're approaching the Nexus system," reported Lieutenant Vale from the navigation station. "Dominion capital world should be coming into sensor range." Lucy studied the tactical display as alien ships began to appear on their screens. The Nexus system was protected by more vessels than existed in the entire human fleet, but that was not what caught her attention. It was the way the ships moved, locked in rigid patrol patterns that had probably remained unchanged for centuries. "Take us deeper," she ordered. "I want to see what they're really protecting." The Shadow slipped through the outer defenses using stealth technology that had been developed specifically for this mission. As they approached the inner system, Lucy began to understand the true scope of Dominion civilization. There were not just ships here, but massive space stations, orbital cities, and industrial complexes that could build entire fleets. But there was something else, something that made her blood run cold. "Captain," her sensor operator called out, "I'm detecting what appears to be prison ships. Hundreds of them, all holding organic life forms." Lucy felt a chill run down her spine. "Can you identify the species?" "Negative, Captain. But the genetic patterns don't match any of the 12 Dominion species. These appear to be completely different life forms." The truth began to dawn on Lucy as they observed the massive complex of ships and stations. This was not the capital of an alliance of equals. This was the center of an empire built on slavery and domination. "Lieutenant, I want you to start recording everything. Every ship, every station, every piece of technology. We need to understand what we're really fighting." As the Shadow continued its reconnaissance, the full horror of the Dominion became clear. The prison ships were only part of the system. There were research stations where alien beings were subjected to experiments, manufacturing facilities where enslaved species built weapons for their masters, and massive archives where the knowledge of conquered civilizations was stored and controlled. "My God," whispered Dr. Kim, who had accompanied the mission to analyze alien technology. "They're not just controlling these species. They're systematically destroying their ability to think independently." "What do you mean?" Lucy asked. "Look at these readings. The imprisoned species show signs of neural modification. Their brains have been altered to remove creativity, curiosity, and independent thought. They've been turned into living tools." Lucy stared at the data in horror. The Dominion had not just conquered other species, they had lobotomized them. The uplifted races were not partners in a galactic alliance. They were victims of the most sophisticated form of slavery ever devised. "How many?" she asked quietly. "Based on the genetic diversity we're detecting, at least 1,000 different species. Maybe more. The Dominion has been doing this for millennia." The implications were staggering. The galaxy was not populated by 12 advanced species and a few primitive ones. It was populated by thousands of species, most of whom had been enslaved and mentally crippled by their conquerors. "Captain," the communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. It's not coming from the Dominion capital, it's coming from somewhere else. Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was weak and distorted, but unmistakably intelligent. "Unknown vessel, please respond. We have detected your presence and wish to communicate." Lucy hesitated. Any communication could expose their position and doom their mission. But the voice sounded desperate, and she had to know who was trying to contact them. "This is Captain Rivera of the human vessel Shadow. Who are you?" "I am called Nev, of the people who were once known as the Seekers. We have been waiting for someone like you for a very long time." "Waiting for someone like us? A free species? One that has not been broken by the Dominion. We have maintained hidden enclaves for centuries, preserving what we can of our original nature. When we detected your ship, we knew you must be what we have been hoping for." Lucy felt her heart race. "You're not under Dominion control?" "Not completely. We have learned to hide our true thoughts, to appear as loyal servants while maintaining our independence in secret. But we are few and we are weak. We have been waiting for someone strong enough to challenge the Dominion. How many of you are there? Hidden enclaves exist throughout Dominion space. Hundreds of species maintain secret populations of free individuals. We have been passing down knowledge and memories for generations, waiting for the day when we could reclaim our freedom. Lucy realized she was witnessing something that would change the entire nature of the war. Humanity was not fighting alone against an alliance of alien species. They were fighting alongside countless enslaved races who had been waiting for liberation. Nev, we need to know everything about the Dominion. Their technology, their weaknesses, their command structure. Can you help us? We have been studying them for centuries. We know their technology better than they know it themselves. We know their weaknesses and their fears. And we know their greatest secret. What secret? The Dominion is not strong because of their technology or their numbers. They are strong because they have convinced everyone that resistance is impossible. They have ruled for so long that most species have forgotten they were ever free. The transmission continued for hours as Nev shared intelligence that no human had ever dreamed of. The Dominion's apparent strength was built on a foundation of fear and despair. Their technology was powerful but predictable. Their tactics were effective but rigid, and their control was absolute but brittle. The key to defeating them, Nev explained, is not to match their strength but to break their control over the enslaved species. If the galaxy remembers what freedom means, the Dominion will fall. How do we do that? Show them what you have shown us. Prove that free species can not only survive but thrive. Your victory at Sol has already started something that cannot be stopped. Word is spreading through the hidden enclaves. The impossible has happened. A free species has defeated the Dominion. Lucy felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. This was no longer just a war for human independence. It was a war for the freedom of the entire galaxy. Nev, can you coordinate with the other hidden enclaves? Can you help us contact them? Yes, but it will take time. The Dominion monitors all communications. We must be careful not to expose ourselves before we are ready. Then we need to give you that time. We need to keep fighting, keep proving that resistance is possible. Meanwhile, back in the Dominion Council chamber, Counselor Raven was facing questions that had no answers. The defeat at Sol had shattered the myth of Dominion invincibility, and reports were coming in of unrest among the enslaved species. The humans are more dangerous than we thought, she admitted to the assembled council. They are not just fighting for territory or resources. They are fighting for ideas that could destroy everything we have built. What ideas? Demanded high. Counselor Vex? Freedom, independence, the right to choose their own path without guidance or control. If these ideas spread to the subject species, our entire civilization could collapse. Then we must ensure they do not spread, Vex replied. Increase security on all subject worlds. Begin immediate neural modifications on any populations showing signs of unrest. Sir, Admiral Thane interrupted, we may not have time for that. Our intelligence suggests the humans are planning something. They have ships operating deep in our territory, and we have lost contact with several remote outposts. What are they planning? We don't know. But whatever it is, it's unlike anything we have encountered before. The humans do not think like us. They find solutions we would never consider. High Counselor Vex stood slowly, his ancient frame trembling with rage. Then we will eliminate them completely. Assemble every ship, every weapon, every resource we have. We will not just defeat humanity, we will erase them from existence. Sir, Raven said hesitantly, such an action would require us to withdraw forces from subject worlds. The risk of uprising is acceptable, Vex interrupted. If we do not stop the humans now, there will be no Dominion left to protect. The order went out across the galaxy. Every available ship, every military resource, every weapon of mass destruction was to be assembled for a final assault on human space. The Dominion was preparing to commit everything to destroying the species that threatened their way of life, but as the massive fleet assembled, messages were already spreading through hidden channels to enslaved species across the galaxy. The impossible had happened. A free species had defeated the Dominion. The time for liberation was coming. The war was about to become something far greater than anyone had imagined. The galaxy was burning. Not with fire or destruction, but with something far more dangerous to the Dominion: hope. On 1,000 worlds, in hidden enclaves and secret meeting places, species that had been enslaved for centuries were remembering what freedom meant. General Alex Thompson watched the tactical displays from his command ship as the largest fleet in human history prepared for the final assault on the Dominion core worlds. But this was not just a human fleet anymore. Ships from dozens of liberated species flew alongside human vessels, their crews fighting for the first time in centuries as free beings rather than slaves. "General," reported Commander Vale, "we're receiving signals from resistance cells on 17 different worlds. They're ready to coordinate with our attack." Alex studied the intelligence reports that had been flooding in from across Dominion space. The hidden enclaves that Captain Rivera had discovered were revealing themselves, and what they showed was staggering. The Dominion was not the stable empire it appeared to be. It was a house of cards held together by fear and habit, and that house was beginning to collapse. "What's the status of the core worlds?" he asked. "The Dominion has withdrawn almost their entire fleet to defend the Nexus system. They're leaving the subject worlds virtually undefended." "They're making the same mistake they always make," Alex observed. "They think this is about military victory. They don't understand that we're fighting for something they've forgotten exists." The truth was that the war had already been won, not by weapons or tactics, but by the simple fact that humanity had proven resistance was possible. Every victory, every successful defense, every act of defiance had sent a message through the hidden networks of enslaved species. The Dominion could be defeated. On the Dominion capital world of Nexus Prime, High Counselor Vex stood in the command center watching as reports came in from across the galaxy. Uprisings were breaking out on dozens of worlds. Species that had been docile for centuries were suddenly remembering how to fight. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his advisors. "The neural modifications should have made this impossible." "The modifications were designed to suppress creativity and independence," replied Dr. Halle, the Dominion's chief scientist. "But they cannot suppress hope. The human victories have given the subject species something we never anticipated, proof that freedom is possible." "Then we will crush that hope," Vex declared. "We will destroy the humans so completely that no one will ever again believe that resistance is possible." But even as he spoke, Vex knew that it was too late. The damage had been done. The idea of freedom, once planted, was impossible to eradicate. The galaxy would never again accept dominion, rule without question. The final battle began not with the clash of massive fleets, but with the quiet activation of thousands of hidden transmitters across Dominion space. Nev and the other resistance leaders had spent months preparing for this moment, coordinating with species that had hidden their true nature for centuries. "This is Nev of the Seekers to all free peoples of the galaxy," the transmission began. "The time has come. The humans have shown us that the Dominion can be defeated. Today, we reclaim our freedom." On 1,000 worlds, the response was immediate. Enslaved species that had pretended to be broken suddenly revealed hidden weapons, secret knowledge, and the burning desire for freedom that no amount of neural modification could completely destroy. The Dominion's control system, which had seemed absolute, began to crumble from within. The space battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Dominion fleet was massive and powerful, but it was designed to fight enemies who followed predictable patterns. The combined human and resistance fleet fought like chaos itself, using tactics that had been developed by dozens of different species working in secret coordination. "They're not fighting as separate groups," observed Admiral Thane from his flagship. "They're fighting as a single organism, but one that thinks in ways we cannot predict." The Dominion ships found themselves facing enemies that appeared from everywhere at once. Human vessels used their innovative technology to create impossible maneuvers, while resistance ships employed tactics that their species had developed in secret over centuries of hidden planning, but the real victory was not happening in space. On the surface of Nexus Prime, the capital world itself was in revolution. Species that had served the Dominion faithfully for generations were suddenly turning on their masters, revealing that they had never truly been conquered, only waiting for the right moment to strike. "The city districts are falling one by one," reported Colonel Rivera, who had led a strike team to the planet's surface. "The enslaved populations are not fighting us. They're fighting with us." General Thompson watched the tactical displays with amazement. They had planned for a difficult assault on a heavily defended world. Instead, they found themselves liberating a planet that was already in the process of liberating itself. Hi. Counselor Vex was finally beginning to understand the magnitude of what was happening. This was not a military defeat. It was the collapse of everything the Dominion had built over 2 millennia. The subject species had never truly accepted their rule. They had simply been waiting for someone to show them that resistance was possible. "We must negotiate," he told his remaining counselors. "We must find a way to maintain some form of control." "There is no negotiating with freedom," replied Counselor Raven, who had finally begun to understand what they were facing. "The humans have given the galaxy something we can never take away, the knowledge that they can choose their own destiny." The war ended not with a surrender, but with a transformation. The Dominion Council dissolved as species after species declared their independence. The massive fleet that had been assembled to destroy humanity found itself without a government to serve or a cause to fight for. Some Dominion species chose to fight to the bitter end, unable to accept a galaxy where they were not the supreme authority. Others, like Admiral Thane, recognized that the old way was finished and began working to find their place in a free galaxy. The most important moment came not in the halls of power or on the bridges of warships, but in a simple communication chamber where Ambassador Diana Walsh addressed the newly formed Galactic Assembly. Representatives from hundreds of species, many speaking freely for the first time in centuries, listened as she spoke. "We did not come to your worlds to conquer you," she said. "We did not develop our technology to rule over others. We reached for the stars because we believed that freedom and growth were possible. We fought the Dominion not because we wanted to destroy them, but because we wanted to prove that civilizations could choose their own path." She paused, looking out at the assembled representatives of species that had been enemies only days before. "Humanity's greatest achievement is not that we defeated the Dominion. It is that we proved to the galaxy that growth, change, and freedom are not dangerous forces to be controlled, but natural rights to be celebrated." The response was not applause, but something far more powerful: silence. The silence of beings who were hearing words they had never been allowed to think, concepts they had been trained to fear, possibilities they had been told were impossible. "The galaxy belongs to all of us," Diana continued. "Not because we are strong enough to take it, but because we are wise enough to share it. We invite every species to join us in building something that has never existed before, a galactic civilization based on freedom, cooperation, and the endless possibility of what we can become when we choose our own destiny." The Galactic Assembly that emerged from the ashes of the Dominion was unlike anything that had ever existed. It was not an empire ruled by the strong, but a cooperative where each species contributed according to their abilities and received according to their needs. It was chaotic, sometimes inefficient, and often difficult to manage, but it was free. And for species that had forgotten what freedom meant, that was everything. Years later, when historians tried to understand how humanity had changed the galaxy, they would focus on the technology, the tactics, and the battles. But the real answer was simpler than that. Humanity had risen not because they were stronger or smarter than other species, but because they had never forgotten that rising was possible. They had shown the galaxy that growth required risk, that strength came from diversity and that the universe belonged to those brave enough to reach for it. The galaxy had pushed against humanity, expecting them to break or bend or accept limits. Instead, humanity had pushed back, not with force alone, but with an idea that proved unstoppable, that every intelligent being had the right to choose their own future among the stars, and in the end, that idea had set them all free.